So a case where I've worked with a young person with disability, she was a 16-year-old young woman, and I met her at a point in her life where she had very limited supports. She didn't have a specialist NDIS funding plan in place. We needed to find somewhere for her to live. She had multiple disabilities as well, including autism and intellectual disability. And yeah, she was in a lot of need for some extra support. So I guess that's where I started off working with her.
I worked with a young man who had an intellectual disability, and he was living in an unusual situation, which was supported accommodation with his younger brother, but they only took in family groups together. And he was obviously turning 18, and so it was trying to transition him into a very different environment for a young man who is obviously becoming independent. He needed a lot of support on how to actually manage life skills and how to basically live, and we had to travel train him and all sorts of things.
So my young person is still in care, about to turn 18 in October, and he has a physical disability. He has cerebral palsy and is in a wheelchair. So for me it was mostly around making sure that he is supported enough to be able to transition smoothly out of care.
The most challenging thing would be time. So starting to work with a young person so late in their teenage years, you know, we're working, I guess, trying to get things in place by the time they turn 18. And then you're working with complex behaviours on top of that. You're working with systems such as the NDIS and the department as well, and trying to build all these services around this young person to make sure that they're getting what they need.
I totally agree, but I found the NDIS to be the most challenging thing. Oh my God, so hard. I knew nothing, and I just was so complicated, and I was like struggling to keep my head above water, trying to figure out what it actually was and how to manage it and what this young person needed, and trying to figure out what an intellectual disability meant for this young person and how they then functioned, and getting enough funding for him and funding for him so that he could be living semi-independently was a big thing.
Yeah, I came in at a point where my young person really desperately needed a wheelchair, and it had been declined 2 years in a row. Trying to figure out the right wording to get him respite, as well as you know, getting the wheelchair that is necessary. It was really difficult, but also trying to get everyone that works with him on the same page and working as a team rather than individually was quite challenging for me as well.
Yeah, the engagement and family support team saved my life because they knew so much about how to navigate the NDIS, and you know, they're just an email away. And the other thing that really helped with just bringing people together was having a really big group supervision, and bringing in, we even brought the young person into that group supervision, but bringing in the service, bringing in the engagement and family support team managers, the team of caseworkers, because they have their own experiences with working with disabilities as well. And so then it was a very collaborative approach on what that young person then needed.
I think when we're looking at leaving care, it's important to plan for who's going to be making those decisions for the young people after they turn 18, because obviously that's where we step out. And I found that engaging with the public guardian was really important. The young person I've got in question now, she's almost going to be turning 19. And we've had the public guardian in place since her 18th birthday, and it's been great because at least I know that that's transitioned in terms of someone's there to oversee the decisions and the supports that were in place before she turned 18.
For me, the support coordinator for my young person is really important. That person is so valuable to easing my load, but also being with me to support this young person in terms of NDIS or other stakeholders that might be present.
Our psych services are a great resource. They've got a lot of the information that we already need as well. So using them as a referral point first is really important, so we can kind of start on the right track.
Yeah, I forgot about that. We actually had psych consults about our young person and like what he might be going through or what he needs, and developmentally where he's at. And that really helped as well. We brought them into the group supervision, you know, another pair of hands, another brain, happy days.
For me, my relationship with my young person was quite good. What I found was really important was just being there consistently and spending time with him on his own, because he has two siblings that live in the same placement that can be quite, you know, big personalities, and they can sometimes take the spotlight.
I felt that I had to visit her a lot more frequently because, you know, normally we might visit a young person, say once a month. That's not going to cut it for a young person whose memory isn't always there and the recall's always there. But I found my relationship was more with the stakeholders around to make sure that they were supporting her daily life and meeting her needs, because essentially they're the ones that are on the front line with her every day.
Ultimately, leaving care means they're going to be an adult and we're not going to be involved anymore and we have to step away. So trying to empower that young person in spite of their disability to try and really take control and ownership of their own life and make sure they're supported enough that they can do it.
I think the most rewarding thing about working with a young person is sometimes it's 2 steps forward, 10 steps back, but when you get the little wins, that's what makes it worth it. And it was nice to actually receive an update recently about how the young girl was travelling. She's moved into a property that suits her needs, which has, you know, lowered the use of police involvement, and she's got a lot of wraparound supports and she's doing well, she's seeing family and she's happy. So that's coming from where she was, say, 3 years ago. It's nice to see the little things, I guess, all of that work kind of come into play.
Being able to give him that independence and that ownership of his own life where he was safe, and I knew we knew he would have enough around him to sort of get him going and be able to make his own decisions. And that was rewarding enough for me.
Seeing him finally get his wheelchair and be a lot more comfortable and a lot more happy and be able to sit in it for 8 hours a day and not be in pain was really rewarding. And then now finally getting a decent plan where he can actually get the support that he needs to be able to travel train and to be able to handle money and all the things he'll need to when he turns 18, that's, yeah, super rewarding.
My young person, or our young person, he's got his independence, which is fabulous, you know, and wants to get a license, and he's like, you know, got a part-time job, and like, I mean, they're big things. And I thought it was really important for him to be engaged in community sport, because it's really important for a young person to have their peers. And especially with an intellectual disability and someone that's left care and that has all this complex trauma, they might not be the confident person to go out and make those connections. So it's really important that he has other young people to be able to bounce off and have fun. That's what being a young person's all about. Like being 18, all you want to do is have fun. So it's no different for, you know, for someone with a disability or someone leaving care. That's what they want. And so I think that can be forgotten sometimes, that they want fun and they need fun as well. So it's not forgetting that we need to help them build those connections, because they might not know how to.
Yeah, taking your time to review everything and then putting a plan in place. Read over, I guess, even their history, what their needs are and what they currently have in place, and have conversations with people around you who might have had a similar experience, because they might have already found a resource that might be able to help you.
Yeah, I agree. Utilising the people in your team, you know, speak to your casework specialists, get them involved, because they're going to know more people, they're going to know, you know, different avenues to take and what this young person needs, and get the if there's services involved as well, get them in and bring them in, and their expertise is invaluable in what this young person needs. They're the expert, they're living with them, so bring them in and engage everybody you can in that process from the beginning, and then it'll make it a lot easier, because then you work stuff out a lot more. It's really helpful to utilise casework support like that. Many hands make light work.
Also do your own research and make sure that if something doesn't feel right, then trust your gut and do your research and rectify it.
Skills that are most valuable when working with a young person with disability, I feel, is perseverance, because a lot of the work can be very relentless and time consuming. Being confident in what you know and even what you don't know, to ask questions, and I guess just to build relationships with the young person, and take the time to build relationships with the people important to that young person as well, so that you can be that key person in that team.
I think resilience is really important because you're going to have knocks, you're not going to understand things, and then, you know, it's really important to just get up, get back on the horse and keep going with it. And negotiation, because you've got all of these external stakeholders, and you know, if you have supports in there as well, you've got to really negotiate to try and get the good plan for that kid, so that then, you know, when they're by themselves and independent, then they have all the funding that they need.
Advocacy as well, and just knowing, you know, doing your research and being informed when you are talking with people, and if you don't know, ask.